What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Collider Interview Studio at New York Comic Con 2024. I am so excited to be sitting with the team behind Hysteria. Huge congratulations on your show. I love really fun and entertaining horror, but also horror that has something worthwhile to say, and I'm very impressed by the balance here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Great interview. Amazing. We love it.
I told you she's good.
Yeah, great.
I will
Great
be
stuff.
pushing this show hardcore. You're all going to learn how much I love two-part questions. Matthew, you're getting my first one here because I have to talk about the development of the story.
Okay.
Can you tell me what idea number one was, the thing that started this all? But then also, did you have a break story moment, something you came up with that made you think this feels like a full series now?
That's a great question. I think
But it's a two-part question.
yes, those are great questions.
Thank you.
I'd say the very first scene of the first episode was the first thing I ever wrote for it. I wrote it 7 pages one day in 2016, and then I put it in a drawer, and I didn't come back to it for 2 or 3 years. And then I think it was when I figured out the band component of this story, when I figured out that the protagonists should be this band and that the antagonist should be Anna. It all really just came together when it felt like there was a natural, easy protagonist to root for and someone that was ideologically opposed to them. It all just came together so quickly from there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is your first time writing a script that went to series.
Yes.
I am curious, what was the biggest surprise in terms of that part of the process? And I guess what it takes to get a green light on something you wrote.
I have a very odd experience with this just because this doesn't happen to anyone. And I'm very well aware that this doesn't happen to anyone. This was the first thing that I wrote. It's not the first script I wrote, but the first thing that I wrote with the intent to go sell. And we sold it and it got made. I mean, granted, we changed networks. We went through a writer's strike, a SAG strike, all of those things. I sold it in 2019 and here we are in 2024. I would
Pretty
say
quick turnaround.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The hardest, most unexpected thing would be just that life happens so much once this, opportunity presents itself. We lost 2 years to development on this because of COVID and because of the strikes, and we're still here somehow. So
I'm glad you forged forward with it because clearly I like what I've watched quite a bit.
thank you.
David, I want to come your way now. Surprise, surprise, two-part question. Yeah, because you're so experienced, and this is Matthew's first time taking something to series. So I am curious, what is something about Matthew's original vision that you knew you needed to support as the producing veteran? But then also, what is some space in the story he created that you knew you could add your unique voice to?
Well, the first part is, the thing I had to support is Matthew's a more talented writer than I am. So that I read that script, I read that pilot script, and
That's not true.
thank you, finally, Jesus. And I read that pilot script, and it was one of the best pilot scripts I'd ever read. And so the idea that I might have an opportunity on this to work with Matt in this capacity was very exciting. And then in that pilot script, to answer the second part of the question, the thing that I really connected to was what's going on with the teenagers and their parents in there. That what is my teenager up to? That horror movie that's playing in Julie's character's head of what is he out there doing? And the fact is he's up to some bad shit, and the bad communication and the misunderstanding and that was so real in that first episode. That was something I really connected to, and as a parent, I thought that was something I could bring something to. So those are the
Great success in that respect. The layers and the different approaches to the situation gives this like a very unique form of complexity that I kind of wasn't expecting originally. For the three of you now, in terms of signing on, I love asking this question in general, but I'm especially excited to ask it here because like King of Horror, I just saw you in Totally Killer, which is phenomenal. And I've already seen some comparisons out there to your True Blood character. So when this opportunity comes your way, what's something about these roles that makes you look at them and say, I have something to gain from this as an actor looking for new things and evolving my craft?
She's looking at me.
Do you want to go?
You better go.
I have no idea. I mean, I get offered a lot of mom roles, and it's the mom. The joke is, it's mom in the garden, mom in an alley, mom in space. Like there's always a mom. And
I would watch you in Mom in Space. I was going to say, I would watch that too.
Right. But that's and this was when Matthew pitched it to me, and I read the pilot and I was like, where is this going? I knew that this was not your average mom. The fact that she has a child, and I have teenage kids as well, so that horror was easy to draw on in my mind, but also you could just stretch your muscles a little bit and do something that I haven't done in a while, and scream and cry and get scared and really live out something that felt, in a weird way, very grounded, especially when you've got teenage boys.
How about for you, Bruce?
The pedigree of this show is fabulous. So there's no question about that. But that ain't going to save a show. These two fine ladies, with all of their skill and abilities, are not going to save a show that's poorly written. What got my attention was the way they expanded a cop character, which doesn't always get the nuance. And I was like, hey, I could have a beer with this guy. Hey, maybe this guy could have an actual conversation. And, he's not disrespectful to the teenagers, which I really like, because normally they talk down to him and they're like my way or the highway. It's just refreshing. And that's what we look for, is something a little bit different. And look, aside from these fine ladies, it's Peacock. My wife always goes, do you want to make a movie, Bruce, where nobody sees it ever and won't even get released? Or maybe do something for Peacock where people might actually see it, like my relatives.
Oh, wow. Wow,
So,
your wife really lays
she's
it down.
just right there, man. And so I said, hey, Peacock. I also have a pretty good history with Universal, going back to, Hercules and Xena and Burn Notice. So, they don't know me anymore, but I remember them.
Peacock is crushing it with genre content right now. Between your show and Teacup is also quite good.
That's the Universal thing. That's the pedigree of Universal. They were the monster studio.
I'll always keep coming back for more for that reason.
Heck yeah.
And I have it for you.
The True Blood character that everybody, keeps referencing. I loved being on that show. It's a vampire, campy HBO, fantastical show. But I do think that every role I've ever gotten in my life has kind of prepared me for the next role. Like, I feel like I fall in love with these crazy women. A lot of them are crazy, and they are, wearing a mask of some kind, and they're projecting this sort of perfect image, but there's a lot of inner turmoil going inside. I don't know why I'm attracted to roles like that, but they're complex and they're fun to play as an actor. So
I always get really excited when I see actors making the internal so external, and I'm already seeing that with all your work here. I have to wrap with you, so I'm going to wrap with a big group question that I've grown quite obsessed with recently, because I was just talking to a director who was emphasizing how good it made him feel to see his actors take such joy in their work on set. So for all of you, can you isolate a particular moment making Hysteria that brought you the most joy as an artist?
I can, absolutely. In the finale, which was very, very challenging, my character is not altogether mentally present. I don't want to spoil it too much, but Anna had this massive monologue going on while I'm kind of basically got my eyes closed. And it was so delightful to literally experience, she's a fucking genius. Aww. And just to get, I had literally had my eyes closed, and every now and again I'd be because she was finding new stuff in it every time. It was
Julie,
so joyful.
That's so nice.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's ever going to happen with this show, but this moment makes me so proud. And so, yes.
Who's such a good
that
answer.
moment, though, I will say that moment, there was sort of this camaraderie where I didn't really get that many scenes with her until the very end. And there's a trust that you have to have. And it makes it so much easier when you're playing against and we're supposed to not be getting along in extreme ways. There's a beauty when you can look at your fellow actor and you can trust them and you can go places with them. And I really feel like I had so many moments, especially with you in that scene. So thank you.
And I would love to work with actors like that someday.
You just said, well, you do.
I have.
We had a great scene. We had that great
No,
scene
you know
together.
what? Here's the deal. For me, it's little tiny pieces. There's a moment in the police station. He's behind the desk, and a woman who works here at the station was like, "Hey, Chief, what if this is real?" And he finally has a moment of like, well, if this is real, we are all cosmically screwed and there is no going back. And to hear that from the chief was like, you go, oh, he's worried. He's worried. So that's bad. You don't want the chief to worry because he's going, oh, crap. Because if it is real, the town has been taking over and the teenagers are brainwashed. There's no going back.
And hearing that concern from one of the more grounded again, I said it to you before we started rolling. This role feels so incredibly different. And looking at you as the person with the most answers for me in the series, when you say something like that, makes me nervous.
Yeah, you should be nervous.
I am
nervous about season 2.
I haven't finished the season yet, and I am very nervous for what they're all about to go through.
Good.
Do you two want to take us home with this question?
You know, mine was really early on in the writer's room. We had a writing staff that was all in on horror. They were all incredibly educated on everything about horror, Matt included. I was the least educated, and yet I was running the writer's room. And at some point I pitched something, and everybody sort of reacted and Matt said, David, that's really scary. And that was for me like, oh, I guess I can do this. So that was my moment. It was the end of episode 2.
My favorite moment was just walking into the sets for the first time. This is something that's lived in my head for 5 years up until that point, and I could now walk through it. It was like Dorothy walking into Technicolor. It was the coolest feeling in the world.
Beautiful way to describe it. I could keep you here all day. I have to let you go. You have a panel to celebrate. I will say huge congratulations on Hysteria. Thank you for sharing some of your experience with us.
Thank you so much.
Everybody out there, keep an eye out. So many more interviews coming your way from New York Comic Con 2024.